You are in a meeting, you nod along and say, yeah, that's interesting, we'll look into it. Really just as a polite way to say, idea received, but we'll not do anything for now. But the other person hears a green light, a firm commitment, and, funnily, a deadline. 2 weeks later, they are in an office asking for a progress report on that project, and you say, what? What if from the day you were born, there is a software installed silently on you, and it's running quietly in the background? What if I say that it is your culture that runs in the background of every single conversation you have? This program decides what your words really mean. It sets the rule for what's polite, what's rude, how you give feedback, how you build trust, how you say no without ever actually saying the word no. You see, it's this powerful hidden force that dictates the rules of engagement, and most of us don't even know it exists. It feels like you are speaking different language, right? Even when you are using the same exact words. Well, here's the secret. It's not you, it's not them. The problem is that you are both running different invisible operating system in your brain. Hey, someone here. Welcome to Restless Authority. In this video, I'm going to show you how to pull back the curtain on this cultural code. We're going to decode these hidden programs so you can finally understand the unspoken language that right now feels like a secret everybody knows but you. What's an intuitive action in one system can be a total disaster in another. A study of international business ventures found that a massive percentage of businesses didn't fail because of a bad strategy or finance. They failed because of the cultural miscommunication. On the personal level, these glitches are just as bad. You start to second guess everything you say and everything you do. You get anxious about speaking up. You put up walls because the risk of being misunderstood just feels too high. As common sense, we think, of course, you say what you mean. What other way is there? Today we fix that. We are going to make the invisible program visible to you. To understand the system, we need to understand the source code. The big breakthrough here comes from an anthropologist named Edward T. Hall. Back in 1970, he figured out that cultures aren't just random with their communications. They mostly fall along a spectrum between low context and high context. First up, the low context operating system. Think of it as what you say is what you mean. Low context culture like those in US, Germany, Canada, Australia put almost all of the meaning into the explicit words. Communication is like being in a spotlight. It's direct, it's precise, and it's focused. The whole point is to send information, right? With as little confusion as possible. If you need something by Friday, you say, I need this by Friday. Clear, right? Clear. The mindset here prioritizes clarity and efficiency, and it often comes from a culture built by a diverse group of immigrants who didn't share a common background. You couldn't just assume someone would get it. So you had to spell everything out. The motto is, don't beat around the bush. Erin Meyer called this cognitive trust. You trust them because their work is good. The written contract is king. What's said is what matters. Now, let's flip to the other side of spectrum, the high context operating system. If a low context message is a spotlight, a high context message is like an iceberg. The words themselves are just the tip, maybe 10% of the message. The other 90% communicated through nonverbal cues, shared history, the relationship you have, your tone of voice, and even silences. Cultures like Japan, China, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, or Middle East mostly, and part of Latin America and Africa tends to run on this system. Here, the programming prioritizes group harmony and relationships. Being too direct is often seen as being rude, childish, or even aggressive. It can cause someone to lose face, lose job. So instead of saying, "No, I can't do that," a high context communicator might say, "That will be very difficult, but we will see what is possible." A low context person hears difficult but possible. A high context person hears a crystal clear no, just wrapped in a respect to keep the relationship intact. In this OS, reading between the lines isn't some special skills, it's the default setting of that culture. Silence isn't an awkward gap you need to fill, it's a tool that you can signal respect even. Trust isn't about tasks, it's about personal connection there. Mayer calls this affective trust. You do business with people you like. The relationship comes first and deal comes second. Let's see how these two systems collide in a classic scenario. Giving feedback. An American manager, low context, gives feedback to her Japanese subordinate, Kenji, high context. She uses the classic feedback sandwich, positive, negative, positive. She says, "Kenji, that presentation was really great, really solid work. There are a couple of sections on the financial projection that I need to be changed. But it's all okay overall, great job, keep it up. You don't need to even change that, it was good." An American manager thinks she was clear and balanced and just praised. But Kenji, running on high context OS, barely registered the praise. He just gets the critics. He walks away thinking, "I did not do a great job. I need to spend time to fix this before next meeting." Now let's flip it. A Japanese manager needs to give feedback to an American subordinate, Mark. The manager respects Mark and wants to be polite, so he avoids being direct. He says, "Mark, that report you submitted is a good start. Perhaps we can think about some other ways to approach the data." But solid work, man. The Japanese manager believes he has clearly signaled that the report needs a major rewrite. But Mark, running on low context OS, hears, "Good start. He wants me to brainstorm a few ideas." He makes a few small changes and totally blindsided when his manager is disappointed later. So, how do we fix this? We're getting there. You can't just uninstall your own cultural program. If it was possible, it could have been amazing. But you can't force anyone to install yours either. So the solution is to get a universal adapter. So this is your universal adapter. I call it the DECODE framework. First thing first, you need to know yourself before you want to understand anybody else. You have to recognize the default program you are running. Are you a low context person who defaults to being direct and taking things literally? Or you are a high context, always looking for subtexts and layers? When a conversation starts to feel weird, just pause and ask yourself, what's my gut assumption here? Am I talking these words as the whole story, or am I reading too much into it? Seeing your own bias is the first step to see the situation clearly. Once you've spotted your own lens, turn your focus outward. Start scanning for their signals. Pay attention to the nonverbals, body language, tone of voice, facial expression. Is their tone warm or formal? Are they making direct eye contact or avoiding it? What about pauses? Remember, in low context setting, silence can feel awkward. In high context one, it can be sign of respect. Don't just listen to what they say, listen to how they say it and what they don't say. This is your superpower for bridging the gap. Instead of assuming, you have to ask questions. But the type of question is the key. A closed question like, does that make sense? Will almost always get a yes in a high context culture, because saying no would be impolite. See, you need open-ended questions. Instead of, do you agree? Try, what are your thoughts on this approach? Instead of, can you get this done? Try, what would a realistic timeline look like on your end? And there's a great all-purpose question just to make sure we are on the same page. Could you walk me through your understanding of this next steps? Let them tell it back to you. Okay, now you have more data. You know your lens, you've seen their cues, and you've clarified their position. Now it's time to adapt your own style just a little. This isn't about being fake, by the way, or changing who you are. Don't let that go into your brain. It's about being effective. Think of it like adjusting the volume knob. If you are a low context person talking to a high context group, you might need to turn down directness dial and turn up relationship building one. Spend a few minutes asking about their weekend before you jump into business. Soften your feedback. Use phrases like, I was wondering if we might consider, instead of, we need to do this. And if you are a high context person talking to a low context group, you may need to turn up the clarity dial. Be more direct and feel comfortable. Put key takeaways in a follow-up email. Even if you think it's totally obvious, state your no gently. But make sure it's clear. This shows respect for their style and makes it way more likely your message will actually land. This isn't a one-time trick, it's a skill you build. After a big cross-cultural meeting, take 2 minutes to debrief with yourself. What worked? What didn't? What glitch did you notice? When your Japanese colleague said that's very ambiguous timeline, did you realize in hindsight he meant that's impossible? Write it down. This little mental logbook turns confusing moments into your own personal dictionary or knowledge base. Over time, you won't even have to think about the DECODE framework, because after you train and you document and you analyze, it will just become your new, upgraded, and much more powerful operating system. In the end, learning to navigate the cultural operating system isn't about memorizing a list of rules for every country. It's not about losing your authentic self. It's the opposite. It's about upgrading your own system so that your authentic self can connect more effectively with more people. By understanding that different cultures have different programming for what talking even means, you gain a kind of a superpower that moves you from a world of frustrating miscommunications to one of the empathetic, effective conversations. You can lead teams with more confidence, build deeper relations, and just navigate your crazy interconnected world with more skill and grace. You get your message across and you learn to truly hear what other people are trying to say. Now again, I want to hear from you. What's a different cultural OS you have? It could be funny, frustrating, or just confusing. Share your story in the comment below. Reading each other's experience is one of the best ways we could learn to decode the systems together. And if you want more frameworks for mastering communication in global world, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell and leave a like. Let's get smarter together.